for the earthquake, Turkey and Syria, we sent in search and rescue teams. And there were lots of search and rescue teams here, but the couple of teams that we sent in found individuals. And so there's a direct correlation between the work that we did and our partners and the results.
Hi, my name is Lakshmi Ajay. I'm an associate editor with Stack Media. And today I'm in conversation with Steve Smith. He is the president and CEO of Airlink. Hi, Steve. It's great to meet you here.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me.
So, Steve, I wanted to start off by asking you if you could tell us about the size and scale of your teams and your partners that you work with globally and make disaster response happen. What are your current priorities or airlifts that are ongoing, which are time critical and highly imperative?
Great. Well, again, thanks so much for having me. So Airlink is a disaster response organization that really focuses on removing the cost barriers, transportation, logistics problems from moving humanitarian aid and relief workers. And we're really a collection and collaboration between air cargo, logistics companies to really help humanitarian nonprofits. And so we have a pretty small, mighty team. I mean, we're about 20 people in total. A lot of those are based in the US. We have an individual based in Singapore for our Asia Pacific programs. But our partners are global. We have over 150 nonprofit and humanitarian NGOs from all around the world. We have partnerships with over 50 carriers, and carriers operate around the world, of course. And then we have lots of different partners, forwarders. So we're a global organization in that sense, in all senses. In sum total, we first founded in 2010. We've now moved over 10,000 responders, £7.5 million of relief supplies, and have supported and provided aid to about 40 million people. And there's lots of things happening around the world right now. But our current focus areas are Ukraine, the conflict and supporting all the refugees and Ukrainian people, Turkey and Syria, the earthquake recovery, Haiti, and just generally global health systems that have been decimated because of COVID.
The organization is known as Aviation's go-to disaster response organization. In fact, Hollywood actor Harrison Ford, who partnered with Airlink, he said that he wanted to support Airlink because it harnesses the power of aviation to save lives. So you took up the role in 2018, and in the same year, the organization was recognized by the Clinton Global Initiative for its efforts to combat Ebola by constructing an air bridge to West Africa, where there are certain hard-to-access places. What were some of the learnings from that initiative that came in handy during the pandemic? Or alternatively, with years of humanitarian work behind you, what were some of the learnings your organization could apply during the extraordinary time of the coronavirus pandemic that could help scale your operations in 2020, 2021 when the flights were grounded?
Yeah, good question. So, 2018, I became president and CEO at that time. I've been with the organization over 10 years, though, from 2013. And, the Ebola pandemic that we were highlighted with CGI, the Clinton Global Initiative, we moved 100 shipments for, I think, approximately 50 different NGOs and 500 tons of airlift. And so that was really an interesting time because we really saw the power and speed of aviation being able to act as a consolidator of shipments, to launch flights into a place that really not many carriers, only all but two carriers really wanted to continue to go for fears of Ebola and transmission. But airlines still wanted to support, but they just didn't fly directly into that country. So we still helped triangulate those, and we had some amazing things. I think, unfortunately, though, since then, we've got climate change. Climate change has been happening for a long time, but climate change, we've got these ongoing conflicts. And now we've had COVID. And I think the things that we've learned is that the ability to bring organizations together and collaborate, because it is absolutely critical and really impactful. Because right now the humanitarian sector is chronically underfunded. It's a very fragmented sector, and it will never keep up. And so we need to think about different ways to do things. And the different way we can think about doing things, especially when it comes to air travel, air cargo, is that we can use our skills and expertise to move cargo and responders in quickly. And, in terms of the pandemic itself, I mean, we've moved between 2020 and 2022, we've moved about 600 tons of relief supplies, whether it was protective gear, oxygen and concentrators, lots of things, initially into Wuhan, then from China to other places. Then with the spike in India, we moved lots of things like oxygen concentrators and supplies there. But all told, we've reached about 42 countries. 14 million people have had access to healthcare, health services because of what we've done together. And that's taken a collaboration of 23 different airlines to do that. And we've supported, I think, 42 different NGOs in all of those responses.
In July 2022, Buddhist Sochi Foundation, Airlink, Adventist Development and Relief Agency, Project Hope, and World Hope International came together to resource war-torn Ukrainian communities and Moldovan communities hosting refugees with medicines, medical supplies, and other items. Could you also, could you share briefly about your work in war-torn Ukraine amidst the war from last year? Are there any critical numbers or outcomes that were met? Do share the same.
For Ukraine, obviously airspace is restricted, but because of all of the different surrounding countries, we've been able to get tremendous support to support the Ukrainian civilians. And I want to say that we've moved about, as of last week, we're still moving things to 2,000 tons of relief aid, about 700 responders from across 52 different NGOs. Now, you mentioned the Sochi. What was different there and what was unique there is that so Sochi Foundation is sort of a two-part organization. One, in terms of they fund and have a fund and NGOs and responses. The other part is they're an operational NGO. But what we did in this example where that was different is usually we're working with NGOs to move their cargo that the other NGOs will procure, and then we will deliver it. This time, though, we went out and we worked with those partners and said, okay, we will help you, raise funds to actually procure supplies as well. So we really took more control over all of the elements of the supply chain, including procurement. And so we acted as sort of an umbrella organization for the implementation of the response. Yeah, which was really impactful, and it was a great program.
Qatar Airways has signed on a formal partnership agreement with Airlink, promising to transport 200 tons of humanitarian aid free of charge over the next 2 years. How do you negotiate and get airlines to donate space, also free of charge? That's difficult to do amidst a disaster. And how do you work across the supply chains to ensure emergency supplies reach disaster-stricken communities? Does more need to be done by the aviation industry? If so, what would be your 3 big asks from the industry, which is also on a recovery curve, battling several challenges in the currently strained economic climate?
So that was our initial agreement with Qatar Airways. We've recently just renewed 500 tons for over 3 years. And so really significant in terms of air cargo. They're our biggest partner and so important. Really appreciate working with them. I think the key to getting support from the carriers is articulating how, what value we can bring to the table. And the value that we bring is understanding the humanitarian sector and what's needed and be able to help them understand where they can be most impactful. Because a lot of organizations will ask airlines for help all the time. And it's really important to make sure you know who you're working with, make sure they're vetted, they're trusted. And so that's what we do, and we spend a lot of time doing that. That's really important. And I think that, one of the things also is that studies have been done a little while ago now, but suggesting that 60% of the aid that travels into disasters in the days and weeks after an event are oftentimes either the wrong things or they're sent at the wrong time. So you can imagine that with such a premium on air cargo, and then you're maybe sending in the wrong things, that's far less than ideal. So that's one thing. Now, the aviation sector is focused on, an air cargo focused on sustainability, net zero by 2050. That's a great program. But I think there's an opportunity in the near term for air cargo to work through and support humanitarian response through a platform like Airlink to mitigate the impacts of climate change on the populations that are already affected. So those individuals, those organizations need help in the interim between now and 2050. So there's a big opportunity for us to work together to help mitigate those impacts in the near term. And, does more need to be done? Yeah, absolutely. We need more partners. And, so we would love to talk to any organizations that would like to work with us in terms of carriers. And but really the focus is building a platform for us to all work together.
As the pandemic has receded slightly, its after effects linger. What, according to you, are some of the priority areas going forward? Do mention countries, regions, and specific objectives and plans that you are supporting with your work. Sure. You mentioned climate change, of course.
Yeah, so I think COVID, like what we experienced with Ebola before as well, is that as those pandemics took hold, it's not just the countries that were affected, it's not just Ebola that was taking lives, it's everything else as well, because they ran out of all of the supplies and the healthcare systems just came down. So we now see sort of a general low-grade fever across the world in terms of our global health systems are down. And so that's what's really changed, I think, over time. So now we're supporting a lot of sort of resupply, emergency medicines going into various different places around the world on an ongoing basis. We call that health system strengthening. That's a big focus focus for us. Plus, you've also got these ongoing chronic situations: Afghanistan, Yemen, Horn of Africa famine. So those are going to be big focus areas for us. They already are. We're already doing work in many of those places, and they're really difficult because they're really hard logistically. They're very much underfunded, but we do know and we do believe that anything we can do there has such a tremendous impact. That's why we focus on. In terms of regions, Asia Pacific, Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, that feels like key areas that we need to focus on, and so that's where we're focusing on building out our operations and our partner base. Doesn't mean we're not focused elsewhere as well, but those are sort of three.
These are for climate change?
Not just for climate change. Climate change is sort of an underlying theme for everything. But, in terms of our ability to respond, part of that for certainly Asia Pacific, the most disaster-prone place in the world. Yes, that's a big focus for us, climate change. But I think just ongoing climate change, conflict, the fallout of COVID, those are three big themes that just sort of run through all of our work.
Since your work demands time criticality, how do you bring in digitalization into your operations? Are you integrated or you have your own in-house digital tools or platforms that you work with? Are there any technologies or innovations, example ULDs, that you utilize for the same digital ULDs?
Digitalization, is very important, and it's a big focus for us going forward. I would say that we don't do it very well right now. We've got, our strength is really in the network of partners we have, but the automation is key, and that's something we really need to focus on, and something we're actually looking for partners to help and support us on. Talking about ULDs and getting into sort of how we execute on a mission, cold chain, things like that. I guess I bring it back. Remember that the role that we play is bringing all the partners together. We're not actually driving the trucks or flying the planes. There are very tremendously capable forwarders and airlines that can handle the cold chain end to end, and that's what we focus on, and that's we lean on them to do that.
So you're basically saying that the strength of your partners is the strength of your operations. All right. As the aviation sector has embarked on a mission to decarbonize by 2050, is this an important facet that you factor into your operations? How do you embed sustainability in your operations, especially in emergency or disaster logistics, which is time critical?
Again, sustainability and ESG, a lot of everyone's focus on that are really important. And I think that in some ways, I feel like certainly the S within ESG, maybe all of it, Airlink was ESG before the term even came out, right? The S is pretty straightforward, how we're helping people. We focus a lot on our governance side. Now, on the climate side, I mentioned about, we're by supporting communities in crisis, by flying in relief aid and cargo, is a near-term support for mitigation for the effects of climate change. But our organization internally, the way we optimize is, remember, we don't have our own planes, so we're using existing networks. Right, we're consolidating shipments, right? So all these things again sort of contribute to being more efficient and more sustainable. We are primarily a disaster response organization, so we do need to go move and make things happen and move supplies and support. And that's our primary mission. But that doesn't mean we don't, look through a lens of sustainability. And if there are supplies that need to go but maybe aren't so time critical, well, we'll look at ocean, we'll look at ground for that transportation. Right. Or we'll even turn down shipments if it doesn't make sense. There's no, air is the fastest way to get anything anywhere, but it's also very expensive. Right. But so, we need to make good decisions. And I think that's part of our DNA anyway. So I think that's how we sort of, the lens we looked for, sustainability.
We have reported a number of carriers, ground handling companies, for who applied basically maintain the supply chains for emergency goods. So, are there any lessons or good practices from the pandemic and from disaster logistics that the industry can learn from and embrace?
Sure. I mean, I guess what I would say is to begin with is that I'm like perpetually impressed with just the generosity and passion within air logistics, ground handling, everyone that comes together to support humanitarian situations. And I really do think there's such a sort of an authenticity to air cargo. The things we deal with could affect any of us at any time. We saw that with this earthquake in Turkey and Syria, right? It could have been any of our families. And so I think we need to somehow just make sure we're always grounded in that. It's not just someone else that you're helping. It could be you, and it could be your family. And I think the other thing is that for the role that we play, oftentimes cargo and logistics could be a pass fail. We're not talking about a few savings of some money. that certainly is a factor, and that's helpful. But it could be whether a mission or a team go there or not. I mean, I can give you specific examples. Recently, for the earthquake, Turkey and Syria, we sent in search and rescue teams, and there were lots of search and rescue teams here. But the couple of teams that we sent in found individuals, and so there's a direct correlation between the work that we did and our partners and the results. And so that's fulfilling if you when you think of it like that. But really, our goal is to provide a collaborative platform for organizations to be able to come together and support communities that are suffering and individuals that need help.
You're also speaking at the World Cargo Symposium later today. So what would be your ask from industry stakeholders, especially, you're a lean organization which is doing a very highly impactful work. Right. So what would be your ask?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, along the lines of what I've said here is that, we've done some amazing things. We've got some great partners, but we need more partners. We need more support. We need more financial resources. Not only do we, yes, we pull together existing capacity, donated capacity, but we will if we need to go out and charter aircraft and offset costs. Some of that stuff doesn't come for free. In fact, a lot of it doesn't. And so we do need to raise those resources. So I guess what I will ask is, help support us by partnering with us for not just capacity, financial resources, expertise. And I think that's what can really make a difference.
Thank you for this conversation.
Thanks so much.